The only three ways to grow your savings are to reduce expenses, grow your earnings, or delay spending. That's it. There are no fourth way. And when your income is tight, you need to be even more strategic in how to tackle expenses, earnings, and spending. And therefore, in this video, we'll look at 6 actions you want to take to grow your savings and get rid of this paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle. But before we start, just know that this content is not financial advice, but simply educational. Let's get into it. The first thing and easiest action to take to grow your savings are to cut expenses. This is the most fast-forward move you can make right after completing this video. I'm talking about canceling subscriptions, buying generic brands, cooking at home more, skipping impulse purchases, negotiating bills, switching phone plans, that kind of stuff. These small savings are not useless. They're important because they create awareness. They force you to look at where your money is actually going instead of guessing. They also free up a little bit of cash that you can redirect towards something more important, like debt or an emergency fund. But here's the part people don't like hearing. Small savings alone almost never create a real transformation. Cutting $10 here and $20 there helps, but it usually doesn't change the direction of your life. If your rent is high, your car is expensive, or you're carrying high-interest debt, those small wins can feel like you're scooping water out of a boat that still has a hole in the bottom. You're working hard, but the progress is slow, and that can be frustrating. So think of small savings as the starting line, not the finish line. This is where you build the habit of paying attention. This is where you stop leaking money in obvious places. But don't stop here. Don't let anyone convince you that skipping every joy in your life is the long-term solution. It isn't. This step is about control and clarity, not sacrifice forever. The second action is to tackle big debt first, especially high-interest debt like credit card debt if you have some. This is one of the biggest obstacles standing between you and real savings, and I want to be very clear about why. Credit cards don't just cost you money once. They cost you money over and over again, every single month, as long as there's a balance. That interest quietly eats away at your income, even if you're making the minimum payment on time. It's like trying to save money while someone is siphoning cash out of your account in the background. When income is tight, carrying high-interest debt makes everything harder. It reduces your flexibility. It limits your options. It turns small emergencies into big problems because you're already stretched thin. That's why aggressively paying down high-interest debt often gives you a better return than almost anything else you could do with your money at this stage. You're not just paying something off, you're buying yourself breathing room. At the same time, this is also about avoiding new unnecessary debt. When money feels tight, it's tempting to use credit cards as a cushion. And sometimes, for true emergencies, that may be unavoidable. But using debt to support a lifestyle you can't afford right now only delays the problem and makes it heavier later. The goal here isn't perfection, it's intention. Every dollar you don't send to interest is a dollar that can eventually go towards stability instead of stress. Now, the next action to take is to tackle the 2 biggest costs for most people: housing and transportation. If you want to change your financial situation in a meaningful way, you eventually have to look at the big stuff. These costs often don't feel optional, which is why people avoid them, but they're also where the biggest changes happen. Housing is usually the largest line item in any budget. That doesn't mean everyone should immediately move or downsize, but it does mean this is worth thinking about seriously. I'm talking about having roommates, moving to a less expensive area, negotiating rent, or choosing a smaller place can create hundreds of dollars of difference every single month. That kind of change compounds fast. It's uncomfortable to think about because housing feels tied to our identity and our stability, but sometimes temporary discomfort leads to long-term relief. Transportation is the other big one. Cars are expensive in ways people underestimate. Payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs, it all adds up pretty fast. For some people, selling a car, downgrading to a cheaper one, or relying more on public transportation can be a game changer. Even small changes like refinancing a car loan or reducing insurance coverage where appropriate can free up significant cash flow. These aren't fun decisions, they're not glamorous. But if your income is tight and you're serious about saving, ignoring these 2 categories can potentially keep you stuck in the same cycle. Now, the next action is to build an emergency fund. Before you start worrying about investing, you need a basic emergency fund, and it doesn't have to be huge at first. Even a simple goal like $1,000 can make a massive difference. Why? Because most financial setbacks aren't dramatic disasters. They're small, annoying problems. I'm talking about flat tires, car batteries, minor medical bills, or even last-minute travel. When you don't have any cash set aside, these things force you into debt. When you do have a small emergency fund, they become inconveniences instead of crises. An emergency fund creates stability. It gives you confidence. It keeps one bad week from turning into 6 bad months. And once you have that base layer of protection, everything else becomes easier. You make better decisions because you're not constantly panicking. Investing is important, but investing without a safety net often backfires. You end up pulling money out at the worst possible time or going into debt anyway. So focusing on stability first is often a reasonable financial mindset to have. The fifth action is to try to earn more, but slowly, strategically, and realistically. At some point, there's only so much you can cut. If your income is tight, increasing what comes in eventually becomes necessary. That doesn't mean overnight success or burning yourself out with 3 jobs. It means looking for realistic ways to add income over time. For some people, that means working a few extra hours temporarily. For others, it means selling a skill they already have, like writing, design, tutoring, or technical work. It could be switching jobs, negotiating pay, or picking up a short-term side income that fills a specific gap. The key here is that it doesn't have to be forever. It just has to move you forward. Earning more gives you leverage, it speeds up debt payoff, it grows your emergency fund faster, it creates options, and even small increases matter when they're consistent. The goal isn't to grind endlessly, the goal is to give yourself a little more room so money stops feeling like a constant emergency. And finally, the next action is actually an action you don't want to take, meaning starting to lifestyle creep as you level up your money. This is where a lot of progress quietly disappears. Lifestyle creep happens when your income goes up, but your spending rises right along with it. You don't feel richer, you just have nicer versions of the same problems. When you start earning more or saving more, the temptation is to upgrade everything at once, and some upgrades are fine. But if every raise, bonus, or side income increase immediately turns into new expenses, you stay stuck. The difference between people who build savings and people who don't often comes down to this moment. Try to lock in progress before upgrading your lifestyle. Let your savings grow. Let your debt shrink. Give yourself time to feel the stability before increasing spending. This doesn't mean never enjoying your money. It means being intentional instead of reactive. At the end of the day, growing your savings when your income is tight comes back to the same 3 levers we talked about at the beginning. Lower expenses where it actually matters. Tackle big costs and high-interest debt. Increase income when you can. There isn't a shortcut, but there is a path forward. Progress might feel slow at first, but momentum builds. And once it does, everything starts to feel lighter. If you liked this video and it helped you about how to grow your savings when your income is tight, click on one of the videos showing at your screen right now. They go into similar financial content. I'll see you there.